We start. Well, since PZ started, why don't we have you and then Dr. Simmons, and you've got 3 minutes to kind of wrap things up on your position, and then right after that, then Dr. Myers can do the same.
Begin now. Thank you.
Thank you, and it's been a pleasure. One needs to know that Darwin came from an era of time when frogs were born of mud puddles and birds flew to the moon for the winter. And so even though Darwinism has progressed, a lot of people believe Darwin as it was. He was not peer-reviewed. He lacked a bibliography. He violated every aspect of the scientific method. He was bigoted. He had a lot of nasty things to say about women and blacks. And he probably wouldn't be published today. And yet he's revered as somebody significant. I would ask Dr. Meyer, he would ask me to talk about the monkey brain. I'd ask him to look into the monkey birth. It's actually 180 degrees opposite of ours, headwise, and impossible to explain. Excuse me. And I would also like to say science and scientists should always seek out the truth, no matter where it may lead. Scientific theory should always be open to intense scrutiny, repeated criticism, and valid revisions, regardless of the source. Scientific thought should never assume the effect before proving the cause or be the consequence of political correctness, religious fervor, or personal agendas. Students of science should always be ready to ask when, where, why, and how, and maybe even who. And it should be part of every study of the origin of life, no matter where it leads. That's good enough for me.
All right, so there's a summary talking about why evolution or Darwinism should not be the only subject spoken in the way it has been taught in schools. Okay, Dr. Myers, do you want to wrap up, please?
Sure. So, we're supposed to be talking about fact versus faith here, and I notice that Dr. Simmons has either provided no facts or has provided false facts. Yes, a theory is supposed to be open to criticism. It is open to criticism. We are supposed to address problems with a theory, and we are supposed to publicly discuss them, and we are supposed to teach these problems to our students, and we do. However, if you're going to have a science, you also have to build it on a good, solid foundation of evidence and facts. You don't get to make up the facts to fit your desired conclusion as you go along. And I think what we've seen here today is a pretty good demonstration that at least one creationist is pretty liberal about making up the facts as he goes along. I'll list a few that are just egregiously false. For instance, his discussion of whale fossils, unbelievably wrong. He knows absolutely nothing about the current state of the fossil record, yet he's writing books on the fossil record, and he's getting on the radio and telling you that the fossil record is grounds for doubting evolutionary theory.
Well, I don't know if he does. I just got to interrupt, PZ, because we talked about this, and you can't say he knows absolutely nothing.
I've been listening. I haven't heard anything yet. But yeah, this is simply wrong. And then things like the brain. We know quite a bit about the evolution of the brain. We know a lot about the structure of the brain. I personally study the development of the brain, and we know how it gets wired, and it's not by a product of design. It's by chemical reactions, by very interesting, very specific chemical reactions that can be easily changed, that cells can respond to changes in their environment. Things like the brains of chimpanzees and human beings are very, very similar. The major structures are identical in both, and what we find is differences in magnitude. Not qualitative differences, but quantitative differences. Important quantitative differences, of course, but nothing that's beyond the scope of what evolution can handle. And we see a whole progression of series. We can follow the evolution of the brain in quite a few ways. My own work studies fish brains, which sounds awfully trivial, but they are a simplified version of what we've got, and we study how the wiring develops in there, and we can relate that to how brains evolve over the history of life on this earth. And I'll let it go there.
All right, well, thank you both for that. And as just to kind of summarize what I mentioned early on, PZ, if I had talked about this with Dr. Simmons ahead of time, it would have been framed as such, talking about the more of the Darwinist issues. And so I take responsibility for that, and I apologize for that end of
Well,
the...
I think Dr. Simmons, though, can take credit for the simply awful question he proposed as a debate topic.
Well, what we could perhaps do at another debate is, PZ, is if you'd be interested in maybe engaging in a debate sometime down the line with somebody else, if you'd like to do that.
Maybe with a live audience as well.
Sure.
Yeah, we might consider doing that with a live audience. I think that might be fascinating, where we've got more time because we've got the constraints, obviously, of radio that would be more interesting to be able
Get some
to...
better weather.
Yes, and audience participation would be good, too.
I agree with all that, but
that would
again,
be part of it.
We just wanted to make sure that you guys got your points across, and you both did it very well, and we appreciate the cooperation.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Simmons.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, and God bless you both. Again, if people want more information, up at the website at kkms.com is where you'll find it. You'll find links to both our guests and more information. If you missed any portion of it, too, we will get the audio posted up at the website at kkms.com. You're listening to KKMS Live with Jeff and Lee. You listen to us weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. Coming up here in just a little bit, we will have a short segment where maybe we can field a phone call or two. Phone number is 651-289-4499, 651-289-4499, or toll-free 888-332-5169. That's 888-332-5169. Dr. John MacArthur will be joining us at about 4:15 or so. So we do have about 10-15 minutes where we can address some of these topics. Stay tuned. Also coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, Ron Carey, chairman of the Minnesota Republican Party, will be joining us, of course, next Tuesday. Super Tuesday is caucus day here in Minnesota. We're coming right back. More KKMS Live with Jeff and Lee right here on AM 980 KKMS. More spirited